These are the original LT bolts. I'm going to replace these with the ARP fasteners due to the fact that they won't torque, and I'm having a problem torquing them. They have a degree setting and the bolts are stripping out with the degree. So I'm gonna use these ARP bolts, which have a torque setting of 85 foot-pounds. And I think that'll be a little easier. So I'm gonna try that first. Try that rather than degreeing these bolts. All right, we have our ARP fasteners with Loctite or Permanex on the thread heads, and at the base of the bolt you can see the assembly lube. All right, we have the ARP fasteners or bolts in on the flywheel, and they're torqued to 85 foot-pounds, which say in the instructions when you see the bolts. Next, I have to do the pilot bearing, and we're going to be compressing this pilot bearing for the TKO transmission into the flywheel. Alrighty, as you can see, the pilot bearing is installed. I have it almost flush. It's a little lip right here. Almost flush with that lip. And just kind of push it back as far as you can. And it'll be going, because the end of that will be going on the edge of your transmission. Right down the edge. Okay, this is the new clutch from American Powertrain. It's built to handle 500 horsepower, 550 torque. I need to clean it up and I'll be installing it. All right, this is the new clutch on the flywheel. Okay, this is the new pressure plate from American Powertrain. I'll be using this with the TKO 600. Alright, we have the clutch on the flywheel. We have our pressure plate ready. And we have our ARP fastener bolts and the instructions right here. You can see if it's a 3/8 thread bolt, you go 45 foot-pounds. We have our Loctite on our bolts right here. We have the pressure plate installed. I used the ARP bolts. I was getting conflicting answers on the torque specifications for this. ARP says for 3/8 bolts it is 45 foot-pounds. Okay, when I checked online and all boards and everything, and it said 22 foot-pounds. So we got 22 foot-pounds right here. And ARP is saying 45. So what I did is I more or less like the 5/16 torque specifications of 25. So I went with the 25 foot-pounds for the torque specifications. All right, next we'll be installing a Lakewood bellhousing. This would be to attach the TKO transmission onto the Gen 5 LT8 6.6. So this is the only company that makes a bell housing It attaches the TKO transmission to Gen 5 LT. Alright, this is the Lakewood bell housing for TKO transmission installed. You can see I torqued all the bolts to 45 foot-pounds. You see in the instruction manual is not, when you buy this kit, it's not in the box. You have to go online and print it out. But it says between 35 or 45 foot-pounds. I went with 45 just to make sure it's secure. And next I'll be redoing my motor mounts. So we'll see how it goes. Right now I'm putting the new hydraulic clutch on. We have right here, we have the torque specs. So I'm torquing it at 15 foot-pounds. That's for the hydraulic throwout bearing. All right, this is the throwout bearing. I've already placed a new one on there. Put Loctite. It specifies you put red, but blue is fine if you don't have red. And this is the old bell housing. That's for the big block bell housing. I removed it. Had the old fork clutch assembly on it, and it'll be going right here on the new clutch. And you can see I got it placed in there and got the everything in there. All right, next we have to measure from the clutch fingers, which are right there, to this outside edge. I have my ruler, so I'm gonna line my ruler up on the outside edge, and then we're gonna measure the outside edge to that face. You can't hold the camera at the same time. So after we take that measurement, then we're gonna have to subtract from the hydraulic throwout bearing face and come up with the number of shims we need. Okay, we have the ICT spacer on. That's 0.375 in the Lakewood bell housing for the TKO. These bolts, you torque them down to 45 foot-pounds. It says between 35 foot-pounds and 45 foot-pounds. I went with 45, just so make sure it's secure. Next, I need to remeasure my fingers for dimension A from the housing to the clutch fingers. All right, we have our spacer on, ICT spacer for the TKO on the other side. I changed the torque settings to 30 for the clutch pressure plate. Had a change to these to lessen my gap a little bit, move it a little bit so I have a little more room in the backside. So torque those down to 28 foot-pounds. And then the shims, I had to put one shim on this. It had to be within tolerance. So right here it says dimension B is 0.50 to 0.100 less than dim A. So that's why I had to get the spacer, so I can get dim A more than dim B. and then I had to put shims on it so I can get it within tolerance. Also, you can see right here, 15 foot-pounds for this bolt. This is how valid bolt comes for, and I will put red Loctite if you have it. I put blue. Other than that, we're good to go. Got to try to mate the transmission to the bell housing and see if that shaft should fit. I'm trying to see if it'll fit. Hopefully it does. It should be right at the pilot bearing, but I have to check it out and see. All right, next will be mating the TKL 600 to Lakewood bell housing. As you can see, I removed the clutch alignment tool, and I'm about to mate the two together.